Kids are making deep fakes of each other, and the laws aren't keeping up. Tyrone Bowman live. According to the 19th, last October, a 13-year-old boy in Wisconsin used a picture of his classmate celebrating her bat mitzvah to create a deep fake that was nude. He then shared on Snapchat. This is not an isolated incident. Over the past few years, there has been case after case of school-age children using deepfakes to prank or bully their classmates, and it keeps getting easier to do. When they emerged online 8 years ago, deepfakes were initially difficult to make. Nowadays, advances in technology through generative artificial intelligence have provided tools to the masses. One troubling consequence is the prevalence of deepfake apps among young users. Quote, if we could have talked 5 or 6 years ago about revenge porn in general, I don't think that you would have found so many offenders were minors. End quote, said Rebecca Delfano, a law professor at Loyola Marymount University who studies deepfakes. Federal and state legislators have sought to tackle the scourge of non-consequential intimate image abuse, sometimes referred to as, quote, revenge porn, end quote, though advocates prefer the firm term. Laws criminalizing the non-consensual distribution of intimate images, for authentic images at least, are in effect in every U.S. state and Washington, D.C., and last month President Donald Trump signed a similar measure into law known as Take It Down. But unlike the federal measure, many of the state laws don't apply to explicit AI-generated deepfakes. Few still appear to directly grapple with the fact that perpetrators of deepfake abuse are often minors. 15% of students reported knowing about AI-generated explicit images of a classmate, according to a survey released in September by the Center for Democracy and Technology, or CDC. A center-left think tank students also reported that girls were much more likely to be depicted in explicit deep fakes. According to CDT, the findings show that, quote, NC2, both authentic and deepfake, is a significant issue in K-12 public schools, end quote. Quote, this conduct we see minors engaged in is not all that different from the pattern of cruelty, humiliation, and exploitation and bullying that young people have always done to each other, end quote, said Delfano. The difference lies in not only the use of technology to carry out some of that behavior, but the ease with which it is disseminated, quote, close quote. Policymakers at the state and federal levels have come at perpetrators of image-based sexual abuse hard and fast. No matter their age, Delfano said, the reason is clear. She said, the distribution of non-consensual images can have long-lasting serious mental health harms on the target of abuse. Well, my question is, who are monitoring the children? They shouldn't even be involved in anything like this. And especially, see, the problem is when people have phones and they can just do whatever they want to do, and the parents give the children a phone and they say, okay, you're on a family plan. These things must be monitored. And such apps should be closed. They shouldn't even have usage to these things. Victims can be forced to withdraw from life online because of the prevalence of non-consensual imagery. Image-based sexual abuse has similar negative mental health impacts on survivors as those who experience official sexual violence. Delfano said that under most existing laws, youth offenders are likely to be treated similarly to minors who commit other crimes. They can be charged by prosecutors, and courts would likely take into account their age and doodling accomplishment will get them the help that they need so they don't have a life of criminality as they get older. Yet while some states have developed penal codes that factor a perpetrator's age into their punishment, including by imposing tiered penalties that attempt to spare first-time or youth offenders from incarceration, most do not. While most agree there should be consequences for youth offenders, there's less consequences about those consequences should be and push for re-education over extreme charges. A 27 survey by the Cyber Civil Rights Institute, or CCRI, a nonprofit that combats online abuse, found that people who committed image-based sexual abuse reported the threat of jail time as one of the strongest detriments or deterrents against the crime. That's why the organization's policy recommendations have always pushed for criminalization, said Mary Ann Franks, a law professor at George Washington University, who leads the initiative. Many states have sought to address the issue of AI generated. Oh, this is disgusting. AI generated? Are you serious? Child sexual abuse material, which cover deep fakes of people under 18. Well, why don't you go after the programmers who are programming this crap? I mean, it's called, if it's AI generated, that means that somebody is programming it to be generated. It's just not happening by itself. Go behind the source and arrest them, charge them, and imprison them. Yeah, I know folk don't like it, but it's tough. It needs to be said. So these laws tend to have more severe punishments, felonies instead of misdemeanors, high minimum jail time, or significant fines. For example, Louisiana mandates a minimum 5-year jail sentence, no matter the age of the perpetrator. While incidents of peer-on-peer deepfake abuse are increasingly cropping up in the news, information on what criminal consequences youth offenders have faced remains scarce. There is often a significant amount of discretion involved in how minors are charged. Generally, juvenile justice falls under state rather than federal law, giving local officials leeway to impose punishment as they see fit. If local prosecutors are forced to decide between charging minors with severe penalties, they are aimed at adults, and declining to prosecute most likely choose the latter, said Lindsay Hawthorne, the communications coordinator at Enough Abuse, a Massachusetts-based nonprofit fighting against child sexual abuse. But then this throws away an opportunity to teach youth about the consequences of their actions and prevent reoffending. Charges that come at a prosecutor's discretion are more likely to disproportionately criminalize youth of color and LGBTQ plus youth, she said. The final said that in an ideal case, a judge in juvenile court would weigh many factors in sentencing the severity of the harm caused by deep fake abuse, the intent of the perpetrator, and adolescent psychology. Experts say that building these factors directly into policy can help better deal with offenders who may not understand the consequences of their actions and allow for different enforcement mechanisms for people who they say weren't seeking to cause harm. What? Harm is harm, whether it's intentional or non-intentional. And it shouldn't be based upon color. It shouldn't be based upon ethnicity. It should be based upon the fact that it shouldn't be happening at all. Now, for example, recent laws this session in South Carolina and Florida have proportional penalties that take into account circumstances including age, intent, and prior criminal history. That's a crock of crap, because if somebody black gets involved in this, they're going to punish them with the full backing of the law. Both laws mirrored model legislation written by My Own Image, a nonprofit dedicated to prevent technology-facilitated sexual abuse and violence. Founded by image-based sexual abuse survivor Susanna Gibson, the organization has been involved in advocating for strengthened laws banning non-consensual distribution of intimate images at the state level, bringing a criminal justice reform lens into the debate. Under the Florida law, which took effect May 22nd, offenders who profit from non-consensual intimate images distribution are charged with felonies, even if for a first offense. But first-time offenders who use intimate images to harass victims are charged with a misdemeanor. If they do it again, then they are charged with a felony. This avoids sweeping criminalization of people who may not fully understand the harm caused by their actions. Quote, close quote, Will Rivera, managing director at My Own Image, said in a statement. So I'm going to make this a two-part video because this is a lot of information to cover, and I don't want to rush through it because I want the viewers to be able to take time to understand. So in the next video, I'll talk about what happens beyond criminalization. But for now, be aware of what's going on with your children. You got to monitor their social media actions, ladies and gentlemen. Don't just sit back and say, "Oh, my child is, they're doing what they're doing." Find out what they're doing. Make sure you know, as the parent, know what's going on in your household, because some state laws, they will charge you for your child's behavior. Never surrender. Never quit.